Welcome to Artists in Residences, the Westport Library's virtual artist series. I'm Carol Erger-Fass, exhibit curator at the library. In this episode, Miggs takes us on a journey to the studio and into the mind of painter Vincent Calenzo. On paper, Vincent's resume seems normal for an artist. After growing up on Long Island, he went to college to study art, eventually earning an MFA in painting at Cornell. He's lived and exhibited his art on both coasts, and having settled in Westport, has become an active member of the Artists Collective, has had his work in several galleries, and has had one of his paintings accepted into the Mattituck's permanent collection. But one look at his exquisitely rendered paintings, and you know they're anything but normal. Loosely divided into two categories, looking in and looking out, his paintings explore a world both real and imagined. His subjects feel like they mingle their own inner stress and anxiety with his, and seem to be looking to find a creative solution to their often precarious predicaments. Vincent says he's happiest painting absurd situations as if they were the most noble pursuits imaginable. And looking at his cast of characters and the improbable yet relatable worlds they inhabit, you wonder, just who are these people and how did they get there? One last note, over the past year with COVID restrictions upending life as we know it, Vincent has seen an uptick in the commission of custom portraits. Maybe that's because we can now all see for ourselves just how absurd real life can be, making Vincent's fantastic paintings just that much more normal. So let's join Miggs and Vincent in his Westport studio.
Thank you, Carol. Our guest today is Vince Calenzo, who is a member in good standing, I think, of the Artists Collective of Westport. He's certainly a phenomenal artist, and I know firsthand because he's done two portraits for me, which we'll see later. One of myself and one of my son was just incredible. Yeah, before we started recording, we talked about you started talking about your old school. The way you described painting was what was it? Rubbing grease on a piece of canvas with a stick.
Grease on canvas, yeah.
With a stick. And then I asked you if you bred your own sable for the brushes. But what is the magic? Do you use sable brushes or what is the magic? What's the big thing with sable?
I do like working with expensive brushes, but times what they are, I'll settle for synthetics. Hog's hair is best for oils most of the time. But when I was a muralist, I got used to working with synthetic brushes, and I kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what exactly they made of, some sort of space-aged polymer, but they work.
Yeah, so what we can see a little bit of your work in the background, and we'll get a lot closer look in a bit. But just how would you describe yourself as an artist?
You know, I would say that I'm a figurative artist who deals with narrative, who I'm sort of inclined towards the old masters and their goals in making art. There's sort of an embrace of the psychological and the spiritual aspects of living. Metaphor plays a huge part in what they do. And as a kid, growing up, I used to cut school and hit the Met. But yeah, I used to spend a lot of time just mulling over the masterworks, and I still do. You know, I'm shooting for something more contemplative and not so message driven as I think a lot of art is now. When I was in college, I was really focused on Jung and Jungian reading of pictures. I love religious imagery, I think, because of the Jungian connection, because it feels like religion is a sort of a first attempt at psychology, you know. Only, you know, psychology, at least on the Freudian sense, would be like looking at individuals, looking at us through our dreams and so on. And that's really important. That's where the surrealists jump in. But the religious images are sort of how we function in the world, which is a little bit different than just looking at. I mean, I think it takes into account how we respond to things, and things like fear and insecurity and all that kind of stuff. But it also it also sort of guides you through life in a way. I mean, if you believe in it, you know, using Jesus as a role model is probably a good thing to do most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. If you stick to his script, I guess it should work pretty well.
And you know, as I've done a lot of these pictures that I would call religion for atheists, which, you know, I'm not a believer, so there's like a tension there. You know, I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in those artworks and in the text. I recently listened to the Old Testament twice on audiobook.
Seriously, wow.
It's great. I mean, it's so. I mean, there's no wonder. I mean, after listening to it, no wonder so many paintings have been made on Samson and all this. I mean, the stories are just juicy with that, and they're so weird. And you know, it's sort of the first thing that hits you is like, how did anybody ever take any of this figuratively? But it is a sort of terrific first attempt at psychology.
Greatest story ever told.
Yeah.
So we look at some of your work. Can you do a little, maybe walk around?
All right.
Or why not show where you work first? I see your table there. Is that your? With the
this is where I do my portraits, my narrative portraits. I just finished one for a mutual friend, and I have one in the works. You know, we're in the early stages of giving me the information, and I'm going to show her some sketches and then move on to the next stage.
Now, do you scare? You know, there's that cliche of, you know, writers say, you know, nothing scares them more than a blank piece of paper, and artists, you know, a blank canvas. So there's a blank canvas. Does that scare you?
No, you know, I think it doesn't scare me, but there is. What's great about the blank canvas is like it's just limitless possibilities. You could lie your masterpiece, right? And then slowly you ruin it. So I guess that's the scary part, is coming face to face with your own inabilities. But
there's a lot of promise too, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what could be on there? This particular surface, I can't do my narrative portrait on because it has an oil-based primer on there. So I do all the narrative work in acrylics.
So let's see some of that. What people want to know what that means. Even so, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 must be 12 angry men.
It is. And this one of the things I love to do is collide reference influences, or collide things that I love together. Sometimes things that I hate together, but mostly what I love. And not too long ago, I saw 12 Angry Men for the first time, and it just blew me away, you know. And the fact that it was Lumet's first film is sort of incredible. But I love the idea of these 12 guys stuck in this sweaty room, and they're so different to one another, and they're forced to come to a sort of agreement, and it's just great. And the flip-flops you go through emotionally with these guys is pretty intense. And it reminded me very much of this painting. One of my if I could own any painting, it would be this. It would be the Concert in the Egg by Hieronymus Bosch. And there's some controversy over whether or not this is a copy and not an original Bosch. If it is a copy, it's the greatest copy on earth. But I've loved that painting since the first time I saw it, like, I don't know, 30 years ago. And you can't see it in person unless you go to, I forget it's a French museum. I forget which one. But it's just, it's such a powerful image. And the same story is happening there. They're stuck together in a small space and they're trying to make a concert. They're trying to sing a song. So a song is an agreement. So like the idea, it was an obvious connection. So I tried to make it work together.
What's down below? Is that like a monkey in the? There's a lot going. You pack a lot of symbolism into this. Yeah.
Well, some of this is stolen directly from the original, right? So here's.
Oh, okay.
And he's playing some kind of lute or flute.
Okay.
And I have my monkey is, playing the nose flute. And instead of an egg, I have them like these 3 little workers are wrapping them up in duct tape.
Gee. I see.
Something about like middle-aged men and duct tape just seemed like a necessary connection. And the idea of like trying to do something that is artistic or creative, sing a song together, as opposed to work, I don't know, it just felt like a good.
Well, that's one of the things in your work that I love. You put there's a lot of stuff in there to enjoy or mysteries to ponder. But so why don't we keep looking at other, what else have you got next to that?
I have this piece is not finished yet. Like this one, with you could see the burnt sienna underpainting.
Okay.
Start bringing color in. This is the same story. This was all a burnt sienna image at first, and you can still see where it is underpainting. And this is Sassetta's Three Devils, and I don't even know if I fully understand this image, except for the fact that I'm maybe getting a little revenge on the post office after working there for a year. It was a terrible job. We could go into that some other time.
It's understandable. So when you go postal, use paint. That's your version of going postal, right?
And I did a cardinal sin too. I took pictures of the inside of a post office, which you're not supposed to do. I think it's actually a felony.
Oh my God! Well,
don't turn me in.
You heard it here first, folks. If we hear sirens, we'll just go.
This is a picture that I started a long time ago and still haven't finished. And I've been painting this one on video. So like you could go on YouTube.
Oh, really?
And see the beginnings of this painting. And you can see me sort of working through it and
cool.
About what inspired it. But I stopped. And I think it has something to do with the fact that there are no people in it, You ever somebody will come home and show you pictures of their vacation, and even if it's a beautiful town and everything, if there are no people in the photos, you tend not to look at them very.
Well, but monkeys, I mean, there's all this. This is well populated. I mean, birds and monkeys and fish and who knows what else. Oh, a mouse or a rat, a snakes. Gee. Do these? I mean, I'm serious. Do these things come to you? I mean, do they just sort of pour out of you, or do you dream them, or is it a spontaneous kind of process? When I assume you sketch, you lay this out in a sketch first.
Yeah. Well, like in all the series that I work in, the painting process is always the same, but the jumping off point is different. So in these kinds of works, the jumping off point is usually like a sort of stream of consciousness sketch. This was triggered by memories of me in school when I was at the Swain School of Design. And my landlord had this motorcycle that was just rotting away in the yard. And I wanted it really bad. And his son agreed to give it to me. But his father said, no, it belonged to an old tenant who lived in the apartment. And he might come back for it someday, even though, it actually had plants growing through it. And so, I almost got a free bike out of the deal. I'm sure it would have needed a ton of work. But it was a beautiful bike and I loved it. So like, that was the memory. And then I just took it further, like, sort of apocalyptic image of like where nature sort of takes over.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the plants. They say there's those projections. If people vanish from the earth in 10 years, like Manhattan would just look like a jungle or something.
Yeah.
So on the left there, there's this other kind of aspect, and I have one of these little pieces of man sitting alone in a chair, but they're very, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to describe them, but they're like businessmen, or, men with a look like they've had, kind of maybe on the downward turn of their careers or life, but they, I don't know, the way they're rendered is so poignant and yet, realistic.
Now that's again, like, once the painting is begun, my thought process is the same no matter what the starting point. But like the starting point for those are photos that I take of the world. I'm looking for people in the world and situations that will trigger some of the same thoughts in a much more realistic and subtle way.
Yeah.
These pictures tend to go way over the top, and I embrace that. I try not to edit myself too harshly, but with these pictures, I'm trying to say something subtle. And like what I saw in this man who was walking in front of a massage parlor, I just fell in love with the shine on his head.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted to make that the subject of the painting. And, I tried to say something about him making a decision. Like, is he going to go in there?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's, and then could you show the one on the up with the several men up there with the blue background just to the left?
Yeah. This is the same story. Like this was out in the world. The original impetus was my son was enamored with the Norwalk.
The Maritime Center.
Yeah, and so we went to the aquarium like twice a month, and I would see a lot of other dads at the time, sort of in the same situation as I was. Like, after the one or two visits, you're no longer very interested in the aquarium. But my boy was only 5 or 6, maybe 7, and he loved it. He loved it so much. He would grab strangers by the hand and give them tours. And so I saw these guys, these dads who were either out of work or, they'd rather be somewhere else. And I didn't witness any fights. Like this one a fight is about to happen. But I did a lot of.
Did you construct that fight, or these guys look like they're just walked out off the set of Goodfellas or something? Did you? No, it has a very movie, it cinematic look to it. But did you invent this fight, or you saw this almost happening?
Well, I took photos at a. Oh no, I didn't take. I pulled photos from a funeral.
Oh,
so guys were actually at a funeral. I created the fight, but. Okay. But yeah, so I combined like photos I took at the aquarium with, I sort of construct a group of guys.
Yeah, I love that menacing shark in the background. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So there's so much more to see. Let's look at a few other, and then I'll put some on the screen because I want to show the one you did on my son. Oh wow! Look at that.
This one I just finished, which again was like a real stream of consciousness image. The pothole diver. I started this painting right before COVID hit.
Oh.
So I can't look at it without thinking about COVID, about like sort of protecting yourself, and all these bubbles look like germs.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what it was at first. At first it was much more psychological. I wanted to think of the street as maybe a skull, and she was going to tap into that and try to find meaning, or but all that went by the wayside when COVID hit.
Was that a commission, or was that your own invention?
A little bit of both. A person came to me, and she had a show she wanted to put up in Portland, Oregon, and she said, "I have a show going up called Street Stories, and if you have anything that fits that category or that theme, I'd love to see it." And I didn't. So I made it.
It's great. There's almost what do they call I forgot the phrase, steampunk. It's got like a lot of your work has a steampunk seems to me, and some
Yeah.
not, weird devices and wires and helmets and things going on.
Now, one of my favorite characters is the comic hero. And I love the idea of the tinkerer, somebody who, like my dad was a tinkerer. He spent half his life in the garage just building, and he turned into a very good furniture maker, but he didn't start that way. And so I just like that character. But like my tinkerers are trying to solve like societal ills or, navigate, try to create machines that will help them navigate the world.
Right. Well, let me switch briefly to, I'm going to screen share because I want to show at least, and there's a similarity here because the one you just showed with that woman in the bubbles, and this is the one you did of my son, which gave him for his 40th birthday. And there's a cardinal, which I saw in that last one you did, the woman with the bubbles. And it's so great about it because he's looking at my son. My son is, it creates that little tension, and who is the cardinal? What does he represent? And why is he watching my son? And the cat, the big-eyed his cat. And I think all I told you was that he likes bicycle. He rides his bike to work, and he drinks martinis, and he has a cat. But
things always seem to need a witness, at least one witness. If you just have somebody doing something, it seems like it has more potency if there's at least one witness in the.
Right. It almost becomes the surrogate viewer. And then, here's some sketches that you showed me, which one to pick. So you worked things out. It was a tough choice because I sort of like the one of him drinking the martini while he's driving and the cat's harnessing the cat's pulling the bike. I'll flip through a couple quickly just because people may know. This is Frederick Chu, who most people should know, the concert pianist. And there's a cardinal. What's the white? Is that a white? There's no such thing as a white cardinal, is there?
The females are just pale color compared to the males.
Oh, okay. So he's sitting there again. This kind of, he's like plays grand pianos, but he's at this sort of steampunk piano.
Well, he does these things, right? He actually teaches kids with a weird player piano that's connected through the internet.
Yeah,
that's what he described it to me. So, like, I just, the only kind of electronics I understand musically are like old sci-fis and stuff like that. So I said, if I built one of these things, what would it look like?
It's great. No, his is a slick Yamaha that cost a fortune, but it's looks like a. Well, I was gonna say it looks like a Steinway. No, it looks like a Yamaha, but it's a grand piano. But this is a great. So the one you did of me, now this is so bizarre because I didn't want to tell you anything, or we didn't know each other, or much about each other's backgrounds or anything.
Yeah.
And so you brought this back, and I like the idea of not giving for me because I really wanted to see me through your eyes. I didn't want to see me through my eyes. I didn't want to say, add more hair and make me look younger and do this and do that. So you came back with this, and you had, I don't think, because I rarely tell anybody unless they mention they're a pilot, but I used to be a private pilot. So you come, and I haven't been a pilot for 20 years. So this was just astounding to me that you included an airplane engine and a propeller. And I guess I did tell you I had a cat because, I sent you a picture of my cat. But
no, but what was funny about that was when I started it, you actually started it off in a boat.
Oh, yeah.
First draft. And you were, I believe you were like standing up in a boat, sort of like a gondola. And there was a post, what do they call those? Like a pier post with a seagull. And you were sort of face to face with the seagull. And it had you guys sort of facing off. And the cat was about to attack the seagull. That was the idea. And everything was wrong about it. It didn't feel like you, it felt like me. And so, and the biggest problem was that your face wasn't prominent enough in the image. So I started all over. I sanded the whole thing down, and I started with the larger Miggs face. And then this just happened. This happened quickly. Like, you think you're making this huge step backwards when you have to do stuff like that. But then this image just came to me like within 2 hours. So
I love it. It hangs in a prominent place in my house. No, it's just fantastic. I mean, and that it's not a, you'd think if it was a very flattering, super flattering portrait of me sitting in a big club chair, smoking a cigar and sipping brandy, that I didn't want that at all. I wanted to, anyway, it's.
Well, if you change your mind on that, I would love to paint that. I would.
Well, I want to get back to your studio, but so I'm going to flip through a few of these just quickly so people can see the variety of stuff. These are commissions, right? I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all connected to personal stories. Some people give me a lot. Most people give me more information than. I mean, you were really my first, so I didn't really know what I'm doing with these yet. But it is nice to actually listen to the stories of the subjects and. Get a little bit, you might think of it more as illustration, but I really I enjoy getting out of my own head, actually.
Well, that's great. And this is Tammy Windsor, who's a member of the collective, and this is it just captures her because she's just such a colorful character as a person, and she does these weird these ghosts. What are they? Sort of cartoon ghosts in the background.
Yeah, well. Those are actually images of her work. She had sold all of those paintings, and I love her paintings. And she had sold all of those works, so I thought of them as ghosts of paintings past. And she's I think serving dessert to all of her paintings as a sort of, I guess, as a celebration of their sales and having her work out in the world. And then. When it comes to her, when I think of her, I think of her weird outfits and and I happen to be looking at German Renaissance art a lot of the time, so I think that obviously influenced my decision.
Well, she looks like a car hop from Jupiter or something. She's just, I'm going to just flip to one of these crowds. This I can't just get over because the density of imagery here is just, this is a Bosch-esque type of thing too, right? I mean,
that's part of the kitchen sink series. That's the first of the kitchen sink paintings. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so much going, and you have to sketch this out, plot this out, obviously ahead of time, right? Or
I did not. I actually started it sort of, I think I started it in one corner and just moved across.
Oh my God.
Very improvisational. And after you start making connections and then you go back in. So it wasn't like it was finished once I covered the canvas. I would go back in and create a more logical space out of it. But that's how it was made.
So you got I'm just noticing little I can't go into this so much here, but those two little girls from The Shining, is that who they are on the bottom there? Yeah. I mean, there's so much imagery that's just, you could spend the rest of your life digging in. Anyway, there's another dense image from, wow. I mean, this is just, are these, what time frame? I mean, is recent in your life or early? When were these done?
These are pretty old. When we first moved to Los Angeles, I got a job as a muralist, and quite a few murals that I was painting were in Santa Monica. And Santa Monica was a little bit of a freak show and I saw Santa Monica very much in the same way that, again, another Bosch painting, it's called the Hay Wagon. And the center panel of that triptych has these people fawning over this wagon full of hay. And I just replaced it with Spam, I think the thing that would be most despised in California. And have them loving it. I don't know if I don't know if it's revenge. There's some kind of weird impulse there. Understand?
And I know, and yet another one. Do these? I mean, they're just phenomenal. But does your own work ever haunt you in your sleep? I know I asked first if you were inspired by dreams, but now I'm wondering: does your own work ever give you nightmares?
No. I actually love nightmares. So whenever I quickly write them down because you don't want to lose that.
No, that's true. Yeah,
that's the brain trying to figure something out that's really bothering you, and and sometimes the brain will actually give you hints as to how you should handle it. Sort of decoded in the dream. But But yeah, like I'll jot those down as quickly as possible. And unfortunately, as I get older, the dreams come less often. So
Okay.
most of my dream imagery comes from dreams that I had probably when I was in adolescence.
Now, this is from a series called Looking In, I believe, which you're talking about dreams. I don't know if...
right. That's actually back here. I have that in the studio.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I just want to, in the few minutes we have left, just sort of flip through some of these, get a full range of what you're up to. But this is another one of these great, I tinker. I love the word, the tinkerer thing, because these people are just, they're all struggling in the most absurd circumstances with the most absurd tools, the most useless tools. It's like...
you just surprised my worldview. So
yeah, okay. It's like, where do you think you're going in that ridiculous boat?
I love. That this was the most. I think that was the most straightforward self-portrait I've done.
What, this one? This one is.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look like me, but like
right.
The idea of building something that is being chipped away at by these foreign creatures. It's like, it's just perfect for me.
Like Beaver, you're right. It's just, you're just constantly fighting, fighting fate, and it's amazing. What is that?
A friend of mine who used to write, who writes for Hollywood, he said there's only 3 stories, right? There's man versus man, man versus himself, and man versus nature. And so that's a good place to start if you don't really have any great ideas. Just think in terms of those kinds of conflicts, and it usually it'll kickstart the brain. Yeah.
Well, this is, and she's about to step into the mouth of whoever. Wow, and carrying this big Marshall amp on her back or whatever it is.
Well, what's funny about that is that comes from my real life. I lived in a loft where there was no sound insulation between the spaces. And I would work late night, and the person who lived below me was always complaining about the noise. Like, I would drop a paintbrush and she would come up and complain. Oh. And so it's called Quiet, and it's about trying to be quiet, while making your art. And the fish represents her, and I'm represented by the ballerina, but because I was really tiptoeing, I literally have her walking on eggshells.
Eggshells. I was just going to say, that's that's so great. Yeah, the imagery is, again, the challenge, someone rowing in midair. This is one of the first pieces I think I saw of yours before I even knew you. But
Helen chose this picture to win some award at the New Haven Paint and Clay Club.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You guys, yeah.
Anyway, there's one of the gentlemen. These kind of, again, these are movie frames from a movie, as far as, that's what they look like to me.
I was thinking of him as Smog, the Tolkien character.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Smog is in between you and the treasure. Like, he's not going to, and so the treasure is the Golden Diamond Shop, which, if you look at that, it's not a very inviting pawn shop, but he's not letting you in,
Yeah. Yeah, very intimidating. Here's another guy. It's the last one we'll show. Yeah, and the great thing is they're always coming in like off frame. They're not. It's not some center. They're not the centerpiece, but they're and you can't help but wonder where are they coming from? And so they tell actors, when you enter a set, you're not just entering a set, you're leaving somewhere, so you have to consider where you're. Anyway, I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to come back to you.
Yeah. No, I like that you say it that way, because I was thinking about those works very cinematically. My 2 favorite art, like if I could own anything, I don't really buy a lot of artwork, but if I could own anything, it would be a Hopper or a Bosch, right? So those are my 2 biggest influences, and I try to.
Oops. No, that's right.
I just try to be honest with what, and try to have a dialogue with what they had done, and try to add my own spice to it, my own feel.
No, amazing. Is there we have a minute or two. Is there anything we missed or you want to show before we sign off?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I liked having you in here. It's fun. It is. It's not the most luxurious studio you probably have visited. I've had a few very beautiful studios in the past. This is but this I'm getting rustic in my old age.
Yeah, well, the beauty of it is somebody once said, who did a podcast or blog, said, there's, you can't tell the difference between, everybody's, even the Tonight Show is, forced to use, little, forced to do it in their living room. So we're all in the same,
right? That's true.
Crazy situation. It's a level playing field.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Vince. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It was very nice to invite me into the library series, I guess. And I'm glad to be among so many great artists.
Yeah, well, you're certainly fascinating work, and I encourage anybody. Oh, they should vincecalenzo.com. Is that your website?
Yeah, Kathy's working on it. It'll be finished sometime between now and turn of the century.
Okay, well, they can Google Vincent Calenzo and get in contact with you if they want to get one of those great portraits. So, all right. Yeah. Well, thanks, and I'll turn it back to Carol to wrap it up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Vincent, for sharing your studio with us today. And to see our other episodes of Artists in Residences, check out the library's website, westportlibrary.org, and scroll down for the link. Thanks, and hope to see you in person at the library again soon.